From the bright lights of Las Vegas to the velvet curtains of Palm Springs, Dean Martin's life seemed gilded by showbiz glamour. Yet behind the perpetually suave smile and the easy croon lay a story that ended in heartbreak and untimely farewells. Tonight, we dive into the awful ending and tragic death of Dean Martin and his beloved wife, revealing the hidden sorrows that followed decades of laughter, song, and screen magic. Dean Martin was born Dino Paul Crocetti on June 7, 1917, in Steubenville, Ohio, the son of Sicilian immigrants who struggled through poverty and prejudice. Music offered escape. As a teenager, he dropped out of school to sing in local clubs, eventually earning the nickname the King of Cool. His smooth baritone and laid-back persona caught the eye of comedian Jerry Lewis in 1946, and the duo became one of America's most beloved acts. For 7 years, they sold out theaters coast to coast, their playful banter and slapstick skits creating a template for modern comedy teams. In 1953, Martin struck out on his own. Signing with Capitol Records, he recorded classics like That's Amore and Memories Are Made of This, songs that cemented his place in the Great American Songbook. Hollywood soon beckoned. Martin co-starred alongside Frank Sinatra and Sammy Davis Jr. in the legendary Rat Pack films, making headlines for all-night parties at the Sands and impromptu jam sessions at backstage bars. He was the affable charmer whose laughter seemed to hide any hint of worry. Yet even the brightest stars cast shadows behind the scenes. Dean's personal life followed a different rhythm. In 1941, he married Elizabeth Betty MacDonald and welcomed a son, Dean Paul Martin, born in 1951. Their marriage ended in divorce in 1949, but when Dean met Jean Beager at a Hollywood party that same year, something clicked. Jean was 16 years his junior, vivacious and warm, with a laugh that echoed his own. They wed in June 1949 and would share 29 years together, raising 4 children, Dean Paul, Claudia, Gail, and Richie, under the roof of their sprawling Palm Springs estate. For a time, they appeared to embody perfection, the loving couple, the adoring family, the carefree showbiz icons. But the facade began to crack in the mid-1970s. Dean's health, once buoyed by late-night revelry and constant travel, grew fragile. He suffered a heart attack in 1973, prompting doctors to warn him about his drinking and smoking. The demands of performance became too much. Cancellations mounted, and his signature grin gave way to long silences. Meanwhile, Jean's own health took a tragic turn. Diagnosed with kidney disease in her late 40s, she endured years of dialysis and pain that no amount of Martin charm could alleviate. Yet she remained loyal, her support a beacon in Dean's fading career. In August 1983, the unthinkable happened. Jean Beager Martin, once the life of every party, passed away at the age of 59 from complications of renal failure. News of her death hit Dean like a physical blow. He had lost his partner, his confidant, the mother of his children. The laughter died in his eyes. Reports from friends and staff revealed a man adrift. The once carefree showman canceled appearances, retreated into silence, and began disappearing from public life. The house on El Mirage Road fell into disrepair, a stark contrast to the days when Rat Pack members jangled keys outside the door. Despite relentless grief, Dean pushed forward with the life he knew. He made a final appearance on The Tonight Show in 1984, attempting to mask sorrow with familiar quips. But viewers saw the tremor in his voice, the way memory haunted each pause. His dear friend Frank Sinatra visited often, their reunion more somber than celebratory. In private, Dean raised a glass to Jean's memory, clutching old photographs as if seeking solace in glossy stills. His children tried to fill the void, but the patriarch whose laughter had once echoed through high-rise lounges seemed lost in a fog of regret and unanswered questions. Then on New Year's Eve 1989, Dean received news that chilled his heart. His eldest son, Dean Paul Martin, a decorated Air Force pilot and pop singer, had died in a plane crash in California. The grief was compounded, first his wife, now his boy. Friends later said that his jovial exterior finally collapsed under the weight of consecutive tragedies. He would carry this sorrow into the final decade of his life, performing sporadically when invited, but never recapturing the effortless charm of his heyday. On December 25, 1995, Dean Martin passed away quietly at home from acute respiratory failure, exacerbated by emphysema and heart disease. He was 78. His last words, according to close family, were simply, "I've had a wonderful life." Yet for those who loved him, his ending was bittersweet, a series of losses that painted a somber epilogue to a life once defined by joy. Jean's gravestone bears the words, "She was his song," while Dean's epitaph reads, "Everybody loves somebody sometimes." Their resting places sit side by side, testaments to a love story that weathered fame, fortune, and finally, tragedy. In the days after Dean's passing, the world united in a chorus of remembrance. Newspapers dedicated front pages to his life, recalling his effortless charm and magnetic stage presence. Mourners flocked to the entrances of Palm Springs and shows in Las Vegas, leaving flowers and handwritten notes. Television networks aired extended tributes, splicing together classic performances and heartfelt interviews with his Rat Pack colleagues. Sinatra's voice trembled as he spoke of the kid from Ohio, while Sammy Davis Jr. wiped away tears between takes. Even younger entertainers, who never met Dean in person, shared how they had grown up listening to Volare and Everybody Loves Somebody. Behind the scenes, Dean's children felt the void acutely. Claudia, Gail, Ricci, and the late Dean Paul each delivered eulogies that laid bare their father's gentle humor and unwavering devotion. They recounted childhood afternoons spent in the back garden, learning idioms for laughter and patience from a dad who could balance showbiz glitz with tender parenting. Family photographs of birthday cakes, fishing trips, and impromptu jam sessions circulated online, providing intimate glimpses of ordinary life behind extraordinary fame. As fans watched the siblings speak, they realized the man behind the legend wore many hats: entertainer, mentor, and steadfast pillar for his brood. Las Vegas, once the epicenter of Dean's swagger, paid homage with neon signs dimmed for 15 minutes at dusk. The Stardust, the Sands, and the Riviera each hosted commemorative shows, where bands covered his signature tunes amid smoky lounges. Elvis impersonators traded sequin jumpsuits for sharp suits in a poignant nod to their fellow performer. The glimmering skyline seemed to pulse with nostalgia, as if the very lights bowed to the leader of the Rat Pack. Tourist guides added Dean Martin tribute stops to city tours, ensuring that visitors could trace the footsteps of a man who had helped define the American entertainment frontier. In the decades since his departure, countless documentaries and books have explored Dean's charisma and contradictions. Critics have debated his onstage nonchalance, attributing it alternately to practiced ease or deep-seated melancholy. Biographers delved into his Sicilian roots, suggesting that surviving hardship in his youth crafted the resilient charm he carried. Film retrospectives drew crowds, and Netflix specials dissected every sly smile captured on celluloid. Even fashion insiders cite his casual tuxedo style as a precursor to modern red carpet minimalism. Yet for all the analysis, few stories capture the silent ache he kept from the spotlights, a reminder that beneath the laughter lay a soul marked by loss. Family members later described Dean's final years as a testament to enduring love and quiet dignity. He seldom remarried, finding comfort instead in long phone calls with his children, shared meals in shaded courtyards, and mornings spent practicing old tunes on a gently worn piano. His voice, though thinner, retained its warmth, capable of evoking gentle smiles in hospice halls where he performed impromptu sets for fellow patients. Jean's absence remained a tender ache, yet Dean transformed his own grief into instruction, mentoring young talent whenever a musician knocked on his door. That generosity earned him a reputation not just as a performer, but as a gracious patron of the arts. Today, nearly 30 years after his death, Dean Martin's name still conjures images of bow ties and martini glasses. Vinyl collectors scour record fairs for mint-condition capital pressings, while vinyl to digital remaster projects bring his songs to new ears. Palms on casino floors bear his likeness in commemorative murals. Film festivals dedicate screenings to Robin and the Seven Hoods and Ocean's 11. Even social media filters mimic his Johnny grin, paying homage to a figure who embodied both the pinnacle of cool and the paradox of fragile humanity. His children, bearing their own scars, continue to share his story through charitable foundations and scholarship funds in his name. Each annual gala reminds fans that behind the laughter was a man who loved deeply, even when tragedy threatened to silence his song forever. Dean Martin's echo still endures, sincere. Yet even as decades passed since that last New Year's Eve when Dean Paul's name was whispered on the wind, tragedy continued to follow Dean Martin through the twilight of his life. His performances grew increasingly infrequent, and when he did appear, audiences sensed a weariness underlying his trademark nonchalance. He would stroll onto the stage with that familiar grin and a gentle nod, but his eyes betrayed memories of losses that words could never fully capture. In interviews during those years, Martin spoke seldom of his heartaches, preferring to deflect with a quip or a wink. Yet those who knew him offstage saw a man who preferred quiet mornings to late nights, who traded cocktails for long walks in the desert sun. His beloved Palm Springs home became a sanctuary, its shaded patios offering refuge from the relentless glare of fame's spotlight. Fellow entertainers continued to visit, slipping into the courtyard with fond anecdotes and friendly repartee, but beneath the smiles lay a shared understanding of lost youth. Dean welcomed them all, offering espresso or a sip of lemonade, and listened intently as they recounted new chapters in their own lives. His laughter returned sometimes, soft and nostalgic, but it was tempered with a softness that could only come from sorrow. With each passing year, his voice grew more fragile, yet whenever he sang a verse, it held decades of emotion in its resonance. In the final live recording of his career, released posthumously, his rendition of That's Amore carried a wistful quality that sent shivers through longtime fans. Music critics described it as a haunting farewell, a song reborn with the taste of hindsight and unspoken goodbyes. Martin's children became his constant companions, rallying around him with devotion and introducing him to grandchildren whose laughter reminded him of earlier, simpler days. He delighted in holding those chubby hands and felt a spark of paternal pride that transcended the grief that never fully faded. Still, on quieter nights, he would retreat to a sunlit study and open memory boxes filled with photographs fading at the edges. There he lingered over images of Gene's radiant smile and of Dean Paul in his military uniform, each photo anchoring him to moments long gone. Some evenings he would weep, while other times he simply nodded as if in conversation with ghosts. In these private hours, Martin wrestled with gratitude and regret, marveling at the breadth of his life while longing for those lost to tragedy. His public farewell came in 1995 when, despite failing health, he accepted a Lifetime Achievement Award at an industry gala. The room erupted in applause as he shuffled to the podium, escorted by his daughter Claudia, and met with standing ovations from peers. Dean cleared his throat, eyes glistening under the stage lights, and offered a brief speech. "I've been lucky to do what I love, and blessed to love who I've known." Those words, simple yet profound, encapsulated a lifetime of highs and lows, reminding listeners that authenticity can outshine any veneer of showbiz polish. As the band played his final encore, he raised an unsteady hand in farewell, a gesture both triumphant and tender. Within weeks, his health deteriorated rapidly, and the man who once electrified audiences with effortless cool spent his final days breathing with support equipment by his hospital bed. Family and friends gathered, creating an atmosphere of hushed reminiscence as Dean listened to recordings of his own voice and offered occasional nods of approval. On a quiet Christmas morning, he passed away, leaving behind a legacy that blended laughter, melody, and a lifetime of contradictions. In the aftermath, obituaries recounted his career with reverence, and memorial services celebrated his artistry alongside candid reflections on the tragedies that marked his personal life. But the true measure of Dean Martin's impact lies in the countless lives he touched with warmth and vulnerability, reminding us that even icons bear the same fragility as anyone else. His legacy teaches us that laughter and pain often intertwine in the silent hush of Cathedral City's cemetery. Sunlight filtered through swaying palm fronds as mourners gathered to pay their respects to Dean Martin and his beloved Gene, reunited at last in eternal rest. Their double service, arranged by Dean's children, brought together Hollywood royalty and longtime friends. Frank Sinatra leaning on a cane, Sammy Davis Jr. offering a somber salute, and members of the Rat Pack standing shoulder to shoulder with Claudia, Gail, Ricci, and Dean Paul's widow. Floral wreaths bloomed in vibrant hues, echoing the glory of their lives. Scarlet roses for Jean's warmth and white lilies for Dean's timeless elegance. Beneath the vaulted sky, a hush fell as the service began. A recording of Dean's voice drifted from the speakers, his gentle baritone singing, "You're nobody till somebody loves you," transforming the chapel into both concert hall and sanctuary. Tears shimmered in the eyes of onlookers as the melody wove through memories of laughter on stage and quiet moments at home. Father Lindstrom, the family's longtime confidant, spoke of grace and resilience. Jean's steadfast courage throughout her illness, and Dean's unwavering love even as sorrow pressed upon his spirit. His words lingered. In their union, we witnessed the beauty of human devotion, a dance of song and soul. As pallbearers lowered the caskets, memories flooded back. Jean's elegance had once brightened any room, her laughter so infectious that even the most guarded guests found themselves smiling. She had stood beside Dean through heart attacks and Hollywood scandals, offering the anchor of family when show business roared like a storm. The mourners recalled her kindness, her open door gatherings at the Palm Springs estate, where neighbors and strangers alike found solace in her hospitality. The stark contrast between her public grace and private suffering spoke to a woman of rare strength. Then came the moment for Dean's casket. Here lay the man who seemed invincible in tailored tuxedos and jaunty bow ties, now silent and still. The crowd bowed their heads as "My Rifle, My Pony, and Me" played softly, a nod to his Western film roles. Sinatra, voice cracking, whispered a final farewell. "I'll miss you, kid." Mourners understood the irony. The king of cool feeling the weight of loss, just as all around him felt the warmth of his legacy slip away. In the days that followed, tributes cascaded worldwide. Television specials aired back-to-back retrospectives on the Rat Pack era, while radio stations dedicated hours to Dean's greatest hits. Newspapers published personal essays from co-stars and crew members, recalling late-night poker games at the Sands and impromptu jam sessions in smoky lounges. Jean's name, once overshadowed by the glitz of Palm Springs, surfaced again as journalists highlighted her philanthropic efforts, fundraising for children's hospitals and organizing support groups for dialysis patients. Their combined story became a template for exploring the complexities of fame and family. Behind the headlines, Dean's children embraced their roles as guardians of the Martin legacy. Claudia spearheaded a foundation in Jean's honor, raising funds to improve kidney disease research and patient support. Gail worked with Hollywood archivists to restore Dean's film catalog, ensuring that his performances would be preserved for future generations. Ricci launched a scholarship in his father's name, offering young performers mentorship and access to music education. Even Dean Paul's memory was honored through a commemorative air show, uniting veterans and aviation enthusiasts in a celebration of his courage and creativity. Beyond the memorials and foundations, the Martins' gravesite became a pilgrimage for fans seeking closure and inspiration. Tourists, holding vinyl records and Polaroid snapshots, left tokens at their feet. Handwritten notes recounting childhood memories of Sunday drives set to Volare, small martini glasses engraved with the phrase, "Everybody loves somebody," and pressed flowers collected from family gardens. The quiet mausoleum, once just another row of headstones, transformed into a testament of love's endurance, where the public could glimpse the intimate bonds of a couple who had weathered life's harshest storms. In Palm Springs, their former home was donated by the family to a local arts council, converted into the Martin Center, a gallery and performance space celebrating mid-century music and film. Here, visitors walk through restored rooms filled with memorabilia. Jean's elegant gowns displayed in glass cases, Dean's gold records lining the walls, and personal letters revealing the laughter and heartache behind every marquee. The center hosts annual Dean and Jean Days, where swing bands play on the lawn and film screenings evoke the glamour of a bygone era, all while honoring the authentic love story at its core. Through these living memorials, Dean Martin and Jean Beager continue to touch lives. Their final resting place may lie beneath desert sands, but their song resonates in every note sung, every heartfelt tribute penned, and every life uplifted by their enduring spirit. In death, as in life, their story remains a reminder that true legacy lies not in fame alone, but in the compassion, courage, and connection we cultivate along the way. Over the years, Dean and Jean's narrative has transcended the boundaries of mere biography, evolving into a cultural touchstone invoked by musicians, filmmakers, and scholars alike. Documentaries such as King of Cool, the Dean Martin story, delve into the sonorous paradox of Martin's persona, juxtaposing his charismatic onstage swagger with the profound sorrows he shepherded through private corridors. Biographers have chronicled his Sicilian-American roots, positioning his childhood struggles as the crucible from which his trademark resilience and easy charm were forged. Meanwhile, film scholars analyze his screen presence in Rat Pack cinema, highlighting how genre conventions were subtly inverted by Martin's offhand delivery and underplayed humor. In music circles, Dean's recordings experience regular revivals. Jazz and lounge nights across the globe often close their sets with "Ain't That a Kick in the Head," a winking salute to audacity in the face of adversity. Younger artists sample his velvety vocals on hip-hop tracks and dance remixes, recontextualizing his laid-back timbre for new generations. Advertising agencies tap his catalog to evoke nostalgia. Automobile commercials and vacation resort spots frequently incorporate instrumental cues from Memories Are Made of This, harnessing the song's themes of bittersweet time and personal attachment. The influence of Jean Beager Martin is similarly woven into discussions of mid-century social history and women's advocacy. Her unwavering support during Dean's health crises and her own battle with kidney disease are cited in social policy forums advocating patient-centered care. Academic papers examine her philanthropic organizing in Palm Springs, portraying Jean as emblematic of wives who navigated the demands of celebrity marriages while forging independent philanthropic identities. In this respect, Jean's life story remains instructive for contemporary studies of gender roles within public life. Theaters have staged musicals inspired by Dean's era, interweaving snippets of his songs with imaginative storylines that nod to his personal trials. Productions like Martin's Martini dramatize backstage tensions and cameo meetings with Sinatra and Davis Jr., offering audiences an immersive glimpse into showbiz camaraderie and heartbreak. These portrayals humanize Martin, reminding spectators that behind the gleaming suits and martini glasses lay a man deeply affected by a partner's illness and a son's death. Across the Atlantic, Dean's music finds new resonance in European jazz festivals. In cities from Paris to Berlin, tributes feature orchestral arrangements of his ballads, sometimes performed in open-air concert halls against historic backdrops. Fans dress in mid-century attire, reviving fedoras and swing dresses in homage to the era's aesthetic. Such events reinforce the notion that the story of his life and losses is not confined to retrospectives, but remains a living, breathing collective memory. Academic conferences also dedicate sessions to the Rat Pack's cultural significance, with panelists referencing Dean's personal tragedies as a lens through which to interpret the contradictions of celebrity. Papers presented at these gatherings argue that the juxtaposition of glamour and grief defined Martin's appeal, and that his narrative arc, from small-town teenager to international icon to a grieving widower, offers a potent case study in the intersection of performance and personhood. Online communities keep discussions alive. Fan-run forums and social media groups post rare photographs of Dean and Jean, sharing anecdotes about private moments unearthed in newly discovered letters and memoir excerpts. Podcasts like Cool Conversations invite music historians to dissect Martin's vocal inflections in his final recordings, exploring how age and heartache filtered into his phrasing and timing. Perhaps most poignantly, the educational programs funded by Martin family foundations ensure that Jean's and Dean's legacies intersect in tangible benefits for young artists. Scholarships awarded in their names offer mentorship grants, pairing emerging musicians and photographers with established professionals. These programs emphasize the importance of mental health and work-life balance, underscoring lessons learned from Dean's health decline and Jean's tireless advocacy. The enduring power of their story proves that tragedy and talent intertwine, and through remembrance we honor their full complexity beyond mere legend. Their legacy endures in every note sung, every picture framed, and every heart moved by their timeless courage and depth of their journey. Now, as the final echoes of Dean and Jean's lives reverberate through time, we stand at the intersection of song and sorrow, reminded that every melody hides a human story. Their chapter closed beneath desert skies, yet their legacy continues to write itself in every note, every smile, and every tear they inspired. We glimpse their truth in modern musicians who channel Martin's effortless cool, while acknowledging the fragility of the man behind the mic. Social media threads still buzz with rediscovered recordings, charting playlists that honor his voice and her courage. You can hear Dean's laughter in the laughter of grandchildren fumbling through piano keys. Feel Jean's warmth in community kitchens built by foundations bearing her name. Together, they crafted a blueprint for turning personal tragedy into collective healing, a promise that heartbreak need not end in silence, but can become an anthem for resilience. Across radio waves and streaming platforms, Dean's greatest hits remain cultural bedrock. Wedding DJs spin memories are made of this, as hopeful couples dance. Late-night playlists close with Everybody Loves Somebody, as reminders that love, in its purest form, outlasts mortality. Each play is an invocation of his enduring charm, but beneath the crooning lies the deeper resonance of a voice tested by loss. Jean's work in patient advocacy similarly echoes forward. Hospitals now offer family retreats and peer coaching programs inspired by her memoirs and philanthropic drive. Where once she stood beside dialysis machines in pain, today families find strength in shared experiences, uplifted by support networks she championed decades ago. Visiting the Martin Center in Palm Springs, you can almost hear their footsteps, Jean greeting guests with a gentle laugh, Dean offering an impromptu serenade. Hallways lined with photographs chart not only celebrities and red carpets, but quiet afternoons and stolen glances. This living museum honors both glamour and grit, ensuring their story remains vivid. Community concerts in the courtyard reference Palm Springs cocktail hours, but they also host panels on health education, women's rights, and the emotional aftermath of loss. In this space, fans become participants in a broader movement that transforms nostalgia into action, celebrating both the artists and the advocate who stood beside him. Documentaries continue to peel back layers of myth. New interviews with childhood friends reveal Dean's generosity, funding local school bands and mentoring fledgling performers. Recent historians credit Jean for pioneering what became modern nonprofit governance, detailing how she balanced motherhood, marriage, and mission long before work-life balance entered the lexicon. Each revelation adds depth to our understanding, enriching the legend with intimate truths. The more we learn, the more we appreciate that their lives were never just entertainment. They were living lessons in empathy and perseverance. For scholars, the Martins offer a case study in the dual nature of fame. Classroom lectures on celebrity culture now include mandatory modules on the emotional responsibilities of idolization, inspired by the Martin story. Aspiring artists and agents debate ethical standards for public figures, citing Dean's late career candor and Jean's fight to be heard as benchmarks for authenticity. In forums, students dissect how tragedy has shaped his phrasing and how her philanthropic vision reshaped patient care. Their experiences bridge the gap between theory and lived reality, reinforcing the idea that behind every icon stands a person grappling with the same universal questions: love, loss, and purpose. Even in casual conversation, references to Dean and Jean serve as touchstones. A friend might quote, "That's amore," during a romantic evening, but then pause to reflect on the heartbreak that informed its meaning. A health advocate might invoke Jean's name while campaigning for insurance reform, reminding lawmakers that policy affects real lives. Their dual narrative transcends simple nostalgia, becoming a mirror through which we examine our own relationships with power, responsibility, and compassion. Perhaps the most enduring tribute lies in the countless letters arriving each year at the Martin Center. Fans share how Dean's music soothed them through divorce, or how Jean's story gave them courage to face illness. These messages flood inboxes and spill into guest books, each note a testament to the ongoing dialogue between past and present. In this chorus of gratitude, we find proof that true legacy is not built on trophies or titles, but on the lives we touch and the hope we inspire. As you close this story, consider the duality of their journey. Laughter that concealed tears, strength forged in the crucible of loss, love that endured beyond every final curtain. Dean and Jean Martin remind us that the greatest songs are those scored in the heart, and the bravest performances are those where we reveal our deepest wounds. Their tale is a clarion call to live fully, love boldly, and speak truth even when it demands courage. Let their voices guide you. Savor each moment, cherish every connection, and never forget that behind every legend is a human soul searching for meaning. In honoring Dean and Jean's memory, we honor our own capacity for resilience, compassion, and transformation. May their story continue to inspire every generation that dares to find hope in harmony, strength in vulnerability, and authenticity in every note life offers.